watching Food Whims and Whimsy, and I'm Carmen DePasquale, and today I'm going to show you how to make sourdough sandwich rolls. Before we begin, let's go over the ingredients. We'll be using 4 cups of bread flour, about 1 tablespoon of sugar, 2½ teaspoons of salt, 2½ teaspoons of instant rise yeast, a cup of water, and I like to use a starter, so I'll be using about 2 cups of starter. You can make your own. You do have to plan ahead about 2 hours if you're going to make your own. And if you want to make your own starter, it's going to be about 1½ cups of bread flour and 1 cup of warm water and 2½ teaspoons of yeast. And then you just let it sit for about 2½ hours, and that starter will be ready. Of course, it won't have the same characteristics of a mature starter, but it'd still be a lot better than not using a starter at all. And also I'll be using about 3 tablespoons of olive oil just to season up the bread itself. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add the warm water to this bowl that I'm going to be using in the KitchenAid. And I also like to add the yeast just right there. I'm also going to add the sugar because it helps the yeast along. And I'm going to add 2 cups of the starter. It right in here. I'm going to give it a good mix. A good way to know that the starter's doing well is if it floats to the top. My starter today is actually kind of liquidy, which is fine because the starter from day to day changes. So you might have a lumpy one or one of putting like consistency, and sometimes it's watery. But it all works the same, and I can see that the yeast itself in the starter is active and ready to go. So I'm going to let that sit for about a few minutes, and then I'm going to add the bread flour, just a little bit of the bread flour, about 1½ cups. I'm going to give it a good mix, and I'm just going to let this sit for about 10 minutes. The dough's been sitting for a few minutes. Now we're going to add the other flavorings, the olive oil and the salt. But you see how stretchy it is? That's a good sign. Also, the more you stretch it, the more structure and the more strength you're giving the dough, which is good. So I'm going to go ahead and add the olive oil. I'll add about 3 tablespoons. And this is going to give a lot of flavor to the dough. Also, the salt can go in at this point. I'll give that a good stir. And I'm going to go ahead and throw in all the rest of the flour. Now, remember the starter was a little on the watery side, so we may have to adjust by adding a little bit more flour. So we'll see how it goes. Looks pretty good, I think. The 4 cups of flour is going to be good in there. I'm going to actually put it right in the mixer for now, and I'm going to mix it for about 10 minutes. So it's been 10 minutes and the dough's come together, so I'm just going to go ahead and shut this off now. I'm going to take it off the dough hook, just like that. The dough feels really nice, and it comes together really nice. Okay, so now I just like to add a little olive oil just on the top here. Just so skin doesn't grow, skin doesn't form. And then I'm going to add some plastic wrap right over this whole bowl. Okay, and let that rest for about an hour and a half until doubled. So the dough doubled in size, so we're going to go ahead and take this off. And I have a little extra flour here, so I'm going to just add it to the counter and turn this out. A nice dough. Just gonna knead it a little bit. I also want to form it into about 12 pieces. Well, exactly 12 pieces. Do your best to try to get even pieces. You can use a scale at this point, but since I'm at home, I like to do things casually. So I just eyeball this. And so we're gonna take each piece and we're gonna roll it out into like an oblong shape. I'm just gonna flour these. Keep them covered while I work. Fold it like a letter, just like this. So once the dough has been formed, I'm just going to let it rest until double for about 45 minutes to an hour, just covered with a nice kitchen towel. So the rolls have doubled in size. It's been about 45 minutes, and now I'm going to just give them a nice little score on top with a nice razor. And I'm going to throw them in the oven for about 25 minutes. But before I do that, I'm going to cover them with aluminum foil, because what I'm trying to do is create a steamy environment. So if you cover them in the oven, that should do the trick. If not, you can always spray them with a little bit of water and then throw them in the oven if that's available to you. For all in all about 28 to 30 minutes, but I'm going to take the foil off around halfway, around 12 minutes. And I'm going to just pop that right in the oven. But I do want a pretty strong seal around it. Okay. So it's been about 14-15 minutes, and I'm going to go ahead and take off the foil and let it cook for another 15 minutes. So it's been about 30 minutes on 400. Oh, they look so beautiful. Look at these. Oh, wow. Yeah, so if you listen to them, you can hear that they're hollow, they're light to the touch, and they're golden brown. So they are ready, and they are ready to be served. So we're gonna wait actually about 15 minutes before we slice into these. So they've been cooling for about 15-20 minutes. They're still very warm. They're very fragrant. And they're crispy on the outside, and it feels like they're very soft on the inside. They probably have like a little sourdough tang to them. Look at that. That looks really good. Wow, that smells really good. If you like this recipe, please like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. You're watching Food Whims and Whimsy. I'm Carmen Di Pasquale, and thank you for watching.